Hi everyone! Today we are going to be doing this very cool yoga mat carrier on a Sentro knitting machine. This one has 48 needles, but you can do this bag on any knitting machine that you have. You can make this bag big as this or even smaller. I took inspiration of those knitted market bags. You can see that it has holes and people use them for groceries, for produce. I'm going to be doing the same bag as this one, but I'm not gonna make it too big. I just wanted to see if I was able to do it, and look at that. I don't do yoga, but I thought it would be fun to do something on a knitting machine. This is how the bottom looks like. It's cinched like you would cinch the top of a hat. And this is the handle. It's just one long panel, and I made it as long as I wanted. So let's just get to the video. So what you will need is, of course, your knitting machine. I'm going to be using the 48 Sentro. You can use the AliExpress or any circular knitting machine, because you can make this bag as however long or however smaller that you like. You're going to need some waste yarn, a cast off needle, and you can use any type of yarn that you want. This one is a worsted weight yarn, it's a 4, and this one is a 5 weight yarn. This is a bulky yarn. This one is from Hayfields. It's called Baby Blossom Chunky in the color Posy. And this one is from Red Heart Super Saver yarn in the color Fruity Stripe. You will also need a crochet hook. This one is 5 millimeters. So we're going to take our waste yarn first. We are casting on 15 needles, and we're going to knit around 10 rows with the scrap yarn. And again, we're going to be knitting in panel mode. So the strap for my yoga mat carrier is around 38 inches long, because I wanted to make it as a crossbody. But I'm going to make this market bag into a shoulder bag, so it's not going to be as long. I'm going to make it 25 inches, and this goes around my shoulder. So this is my scrap yarn. I did around 10 rows, and now it's time to attach our yarn. So we're going to just put this main yarn into our feeder. I'm going to take off the tail from my scrap yarn. We're starting on the first needle. I'm just making a temporary knot here. Now, again, We are just knitting to however long we want our strap to be. So once you have done a few rows, you want to stretch out your strap. Give it a little stretch, and you can measure how long it is now. So mine is about 3 inches. And then we're just going to do panel mode until I have my strap 25 inches long. So when you finish knitting your strap, make sure you're ending on the first needle. For me, it's the needle next to the white one. So this is my bag. It's around 27 inches long. I want to mention that this bag is knitted in one piece. You don't have to cut your yarn or reattach it. But for some reason, as you saw, I took the yarn from the inside and it was already cut. So I'm not sure why, but it's okay. I can just simply tie a knot and it'll be okay. I just wanted to mention that just in case it happens to you, and then you really need to watch when you're knitting. So we have to put the cast on edge, or the beginning of your panel, we have to put it across the other side, and this will make your bag have one strap. We have our yarn out of the feeder. I'm going to skip 9 needles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, and I'm going to put the strap on the 25th needle. So this row is the scrap yarn, the orange, the light orange or peach color, I should say. And we are going to, making sure it's not twisted, your handle, we're going to put the first stitch on the 25th needle. So you can see that there's a stitch right here, but there's also a stitch below it. So this one will be our first stitch, and this is second, this third, fourth, and we have 15. So this is our first. We're going to move the needle down, and we're not moving the stitch down, we're letting it catch on the needle. You can pull apart the waste yarn and you'll see that that's the loop that should go on your needle. Yes. This is our third. You can also take your crochet hook and get the stitch out and you can easily put it on your needle. So this is the stitch. It needs to go to the needle. Oops. Let me lower the needle. That will make it a little bit easier. Like that. This is your stitch. It has to go to the needle. So if you did it right, you should count 9 needles in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're counting 15 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then on the other side is going to be 9 needles. We finished the panel of our handle. On the first needle, we're going to turn our handle on clockwise position, and we'll get to the first needle. So now we are able to just continue on. We're going to knit as normal, and we're going to end on our 15 needle. So now instead of panel mode, we're going to be continuing in tube mode. So we're going to cast on the remaining needles. We stopped at the 15. I took out my yarn from the feeder. We're going to cast on the remaining needles, and we're going to do that on the other side as well. So we're casting on, but instead of being inside like you normally would cast on, we're going to skip the first one, or the 16 one, and we're going to go to the 17. We're going to skip 18, go in 19, skip 20, go in 21, skip 22, go in 23, and we're skipping the 24th needle. We're going to put the yarn behind the 24th. We're going to do this carefully. Now the yarn is behind the 24 needle. We're going to put it on our feeder. I'm going to knit until I get to the 39th needle. Now we're going to stop at the 39 needle. We're going to cast on like we did the other side. And we leave the 48th needle by itself. We put our yarn on the feeder, and we're going to do tube mode for 15 rows. So now you can see our handle is attached to the rest of our bag. We can take out the scrap yarn, but I'm just going to do this afterwards. So this is 15 rows of regular tube knitting. Now it's time to start on the drop stitch part. To do the drop stitching part, you're just going to take your crochet hook and move the stitch that's in the needle to the next needle. So for example, I'm going to knit this first stitch. Next, we're going to take our yarn off the feeder. Now, all we have to do is bring down the second needle. We can do that by turning our handle clockwise. Now I'm just going to take my crochet hook and carefully I'm going to take it off the two little hooks here. I'm going to grab it from top to bottom, and I am simply transferring this stitch to the third needle like so. Sorry if my hand is blocking. I'm going to get a better angle in a bit. Now this third needle has 2 stitches. I brought up my needle up a little bit, and I'm going to take my yarn. I'm going to just knit the third stitch. So now these 2 stitches are secured, and I'm going to do the process again. I'm going to put my crochet hook on the 4th needle, and I am transferring that stitch to the 5th needle like so. And again, this needle has 2 stitches, and we're going to bring the needle up a little bit. I'm putting my yarn in, and I'm knitting that 5th stitch. And again, we're taking our crochet hook. I'm going to transfer the 6th stitch to the 7th needle, and then I'm going to knit, and then so on and so on. I'm going to come back before I do the 48th needle. And to end the process, I'm going to move the 48th stitch, and I'm moving it over the first stitch. For the next step, I'm going to put the yarn in the feeder, and I'm going to start knitting on the first needle, not the 48th needle. Our next steps are to just knit normally for a few rows. We're going to have to stretch out the stitches in order to see how long we want our bag to be. I will be knitting some rows, and I will be right back. I forgot to film the next steps, but thankfully I have these next 2 clips showing the same process on my previous bag. First, let's knit the first stitch. Second, we're moving the yarn behind the second. Now we're just going to take our crochet hook, and we're going to take the stitch off. You can see that it dropped the stitch, but don't worry, this won't undo. Now let's knit the third needle. Then we're taking off the yarn out of the 4th needle, and we're going to take our crochet hook. We're going to take that stitch out of our 4th needle. We're going to knit the fifth, and then take out the yarn from the sixth needle, and we're dropping that sixth stitch. We're going to repeat the process. We are dropping the even numbers, and then we're knitting the odd numbers. We're doing this until we get to take off the 48th needle. Then stretch your bag, and if you want it longer, just continue with normal tube knitting. Then when you're happy with the length, repeat the process of dropping the even stitches and knitting the odd stitches. So once you're happy with the length of your bag, we're going to knit the even stitches and dropping off the odd stitches one more time. Then when you get to the first needle, you will put your yarn on the feeder and then knit a few rows of simple tube knitting. For me, I knitted about 30 rows. To finish the bag, like the first one that I made, I cinched the bottom just like you would do the top of a hat. You can leave a good amount of tail of your yarn, and then you can cut it, and then you can use your cast off needle. For this bag, I took some waste yarn and did a few rows of knitting. Now my bag is off the machine. I'm going to use my crochet hook and seam both ends flat closed. You can find many tutorials on YouTube to do the process. And you're done. I still made the bag longer than I wanted. I forgot that a thinner yarn will stretch more than bulky yarn, but it's okay. I can use these bags for anything. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good weekend and have a great rest of the week. You can follow me on my social media sites, and please tag me on Instagram if you make this bag. Thank you.